got here and flipped that script to just kind of give some final thoughts and add a bit more of some recollections about my relationships with my abusive father and older brother. I think the main thing that I can add has to do with my father and what I wanted to talk about, even though it's just a few examples, is how toxic family responds to the good things going on in your life, because I did put some focus on how they responded to the sudden death of my first wife in 2017, and how they responded to the time back in 2004 when we had been in financial crisis due to her prolonged manic episode and the time of her incarceration. Um, as far as good things, I definitely have recollections of things that match what I first learned about when I started learning about abusive relationships and about narcissism. When my wife and I bought our first home, my father's response was pretty much that, who are you guys trying to impress? Ended up having a perfect payment history on that home. So it was affordable. A house can't be affordable if you have a perfect payment history and you still take care of all your other bills. And speaking of good things and other things that we're able to afford, which made it clear that that was not an unaffordable house, was when we did some home improvements. My father's reaction was to slow down on those. Um, this sounds ridiculous, but it's true. At some point, when we kind of had a master list of the different things that we were doing that we wanted to accomplish, that we stretched out over a number of years, was that he said that once we do this or that, we're going to change our minds and start all over again, or something to that effect, and then repaint a room a different color, or change that counter out again, or tear up that flooring or carpeting and switch that out for something else. Can laugh about it now, but God, that just seems ridiculous. And then the other thing was that over the course of our uh, 23 years of marriage, we took what turned out to be a total of like 13 nice tropical vacations. Almost all of them were a week. There was one when we were in Aruba that was 10 days, but then also one of our first or second trips to Cancun was 4 days. So it kind of balanced out to being week-long vacations. And the reaction was the same, like, why are you doing that? Not about trying to impress people, but always kind of tried to make me feel as if I was going to ruin any chances of retiring by vacations and home improvements. Not that the grand total of everything that this costed over the years was anything that would have wouldn't make or break the ability to retire. So, not exactly what I'd call normal healthy reactions and what you want as far as support and encouragement from family members to not be happy for you about your new home purchase, to not say that a home improvement looks good, or glad you are planning a vacation, or glad that you enjoyed your vacation. I guess the main other thing that you would want your family members to be happy about is something like when we adopted our son in 2000. Well, considering the fact that he's completely indifferent to me having gone no contact, would kind of show that as the respective grandfather and uncle, they didn't exactly foster the kind of bonds that makes a child as they're growing up feel close to their grandfather or their uncle. In fact, when we first started talking about the adoption, when we were planning it, my brother made a crude remark basically about, why don't I find an attractive woman and give her half the money that would be paid for the legal adoption, and get my wife to cooperate with understanding that I wanted to have even sexual relations with a woman to carry our child as a surrogate mother. But he didn't even talk about artificial insemination as far as that goes, but actually sleeping with a woman. So, everything I've summarized over these videos and what is also contained in my autobiography regarding my negative experiences with my father and brother, their abuse, the constant criticisms, trying to diminish me, undermine me, dull my shine, along with their seeming inability or a pervasive pattern of also not being able to be positive or give positive feedback about good things, or to have any empathy regarding bad things. Putting all of that together in combination with the fact that contact was actually very minimal on their part, and just kind of want to re-emphasize that, even though that's explained in some other videos, that like I was the one always doing the calling or the visiting, initiating contact easily more than 90% of the time, and me pulling back on that over the years because it was obvious that they didn't really want to make much time for me. And the contact or time spent together sometimes was neutral, but oftentimes was negative. And even with the get-togethers that I described with my brother that weren't negative or where he wasn't criticizing me, he would spend so much time just aggrandizing himself that after a while it just gets exhausting. He was definitely what I would call a conversational narcissist. I've seen some videos on that. Very quickly needed to make the conversation all about him and aggrandizing himself. So, I also had some videos where I talked about what happened, even just in the last year and a half or so, when I had minimal contact from my father that he initiated when I gave him a trial reconnection period with me. So, the no contact is still in force, and I don't really see that changing. I don't feel guilty about it. On a later video, I'm going to kind of go into my experience going no contact as far as my feelings and healing and other thoughts and issues related to going no contact. My future videos are going to be a handful of videos about what you can do and different strategies, including no contact, that you can implement when dealing with toxic, abusive, narcissistic family members.